Hey there, you ever scroll past a video, see that it has hundreds of millions of views, and just wonder, how? How do they possibly count that many people so fast? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the internet's absolute coolest illusions.
Right, so that's the big question, isn't it? When a post just explodes, how does a platform know for sure that it's 500 million unique people seeing it, and not just, say, 100 million superfans watching it 5 times each? And how on earth does that number tick up in real time?
Okay, so here's the secret, the big reveal. They don't actually count them. Not really. What they do is they guess. But it's an incredibly smart, ridiculously fast guess. And honestly, the way they pull it off is just genius.
But look, before we dive into all the genius stuff, we gotta get our terms straight. Let's just set some ground rules real quick so we're all speaking the same language.
Okay, first up, impressions, sometimes just called views. This one's super simple. It's just the total number of times a piece of content gets shown, period. You watch a video 10 times, boom, that's 10 impressions. Easy enough.
All right, now for the one we really care about today, reach or unique views. This is totally different. This isn't about counting clicks, it's about counting people. The whole point is to figure out how big your audience is. So you can watch that video 100 times, but you're still just one unique view. So let's put it all together. One person hits refresh 3 times, what do you get? 3 impressions, but the reach, it stays locked at 1. See the difference? Impressions are all about how intense the engagement is, while reach is all about how big the audience is.
And, what's kind of funny is that every platform has its own weird little rules. Like on X, if you see your own post, that actually counts as a view. But over on Instagram, nope, they don't count that. It might sound like a tiny detail, but when you're talking about billions of views, those little things, they add up.
Okay, so the idea itself seems pretty straightforward, right? Impressions versus reach. But this is where we run into a massive, massive technical wall. Why is something as simple as counting people so unbelievably difficult to do?
Just picture it. It all starts with one post. A single video, maybe a tweet, whatever. But then, it just catches fire. It starts spreading like crazy, all over the world.
And suddenly, in just a few hours, you're not dealing with thousands of people, you're dealing with 500 million. 500 million unique viewers. I mean, the scale of that is just mind-blowing. How could you possibly keep a list of every single one of those user IDs just to double-check that you're not counting anyone twice?
And this is the absolute key. Trying to do it the obvious way, just making a giant list of every single user who saw the post, it's completely impossible. For just one viral post, that list would need petabytes of storage. It'd be insanely slow, ridiculously expensive, and there's just no way it could keep up with how fast the internet moves.
So, if the perfect, exact count is off the table, what do you do? Well, this is where things get really, really clever. This is where computer scientists came up with a way to get an answer that is almost perfect, but is also unbelievably fast and cheap. Welcome, my friends, to the world of probabilistic counting.
The whole idea here is a trade-off, a really smart one. You basically agree to accept a teeny tiny bit of inaccuracy. We're talking an error margin of less than 2% usually. And what you get back in return is a system that's thousands of times faster and way more efficient. It's like the perfect engineering deal.
And the secret weapon, the piece of magic that makes all of this work, it has the best name ever. It's an algorithm called hyperlog. Yep, you heard that right. Hyperlog, HLL for short. And that is the hero of our story today.
All right, so how does this thing actually work? How can an algorithm just guess a number that big, hundreds of millions, and get it right more than 98% of the time without ever even seeing the full list of who watched? Let's crack it open and take a look.
Okay, believe it or not, it boils down to a pretty simple 3-step process. First, for every single user, it takes their user ID and hashes it. That's just a fancy way of saying it turns the ID into a long, random-looking string of ones and zeros. Second, it looks at all those random strings, but it only cares about one thing. What's the longest streak of zeros it's seen at the very beginning of any of those strings? And finally, it makes its guess. Think about it this way. It's like flipping a coin. Getting heads 5 times in a row? A little unlikely. Getting it 20 times in a row? That's super, super rare. So if the algorithm sees a really rare pattern, like a long streak of zeros, it knows it must have looked at a huge number of users to have found one. It's all based on probability.
And when you see the results of this clever trick side by side, it's just staggering. To do an exact count of 500 million views, you'd need petabytes of storage. Hyperlog, it uses about 16 kilobytes. I mean, that's the difference between a giant data center and a file that's smaller than a single photo on your phone. And the speed? We're talking going from hours, maybe even days, down to a few milliseconds. It's not even a fair comparison.
So, in the end, Hyperlog is just the perfect tool for the job. It uses almost no memory, it's ridiculously fast, and it plays nicely with servers all over the world. And that's exactly why it's become the gold standard. Instagram, YouTube, Reddit, pretty much every big platform you use relies on this. All right, let's wrap this up. What does all this nerdy computer science stuff actually mean for you when you're just scrolling through your feed? So if there's one thing you remember from all this, make it this. The view count you see on that viral video, it's not an exact number. It's a really, really good guess, a brilliantly efficient estimate. And that's a huge deal because that little estimated number powers everything, from how much advertisers pay to how creators understand who's actually watching their stuff.
And really, this kind of gets to the core philosophy of how the modern web works. Think about it. A 99% correct answer right now is way more valuable than a 100% perfect answer that takes a week to calculate. For the internet, speed is the most important feature.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. In a world that's creating more data than we can ever hope to perfectly count, are we entering an age where good enough isn't just a compromise anymore? Maybe good enough is the new perfect. Something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.